Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the future, specifically 7 years into the future, the world in 2030 and beyond. I want to mention a funny little tidbit, which is when they were predicting how the internet would be in 50, 60 years' time, people described it as a forum for high art, philosophy, and culture. I feel like today we'll have a bit more accurate predictions of how new tech is going to proliferate through society, everything from AI to space exploration. So I'm going to start by just getting you guys to tell me a little bit more about what you do. We'll just go down the panel. I'll start with you, Fang. Could you give me just an intro on what you do and how it's going to change the world by 2030?
Thank you. Welcome to UTS. Probably I'm the only UTS person. So what I'm doing, so I'm a practitioner in AI. So I got my PhD in AI a long time ago. And now, since I got my PhD, has been applied my life into utilizing technologies for good. So I will give some examples afterwards when we're in the conversation. But the job I'm doing here is I'm leading the data science in this institute and in UTS. And one thing some people may or may not know, UTS computer science AI is absolutely #1 nationally and within top 10 in the world. And we have a lot of capabilities and talents here. Even in our own data science institute, we have more than 100 PhD students and then almost 70 data scientists working in transport, water, in energy, agriculture, health, education, you name it. Thank you.
Thank you. Zena, I'll go to you.
So I'm actually an aerospace engineer, and I had a bit of a non-linear path to where I currently am. I started working in aviation and I slowly started working with emerging aviation technologies, and that's kind of what got me to where I am today. So what I do today is I work with robotics, autonomous systems and AI, and specifically I work at creating safe and trusted systems. For me, the biggest part of my job is understanding what it means for these systems to be safe. So if you think about your phone and how often you use it and how much information is in that phone, the word safety looks a little bit different. It kind of extends a little bit more than just physical harm or physical safety. So my job is to kind of expand how we define safety for these systems and then to think about how we actually capture that and demonstrate that.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Julia. I studied ocean science back in Brazil, where I'm from. I moved to Australia back in 2009 and got a PhD at University of Western Australia when I started to study what's called ocean plastic pollution. And since then, I've been obsessed about better understanding the issues that we have around plastics and also solutions to the problem. So then back in 2020, I came to this realization that we need lots of things to solve the problem. It's an ecosystem problem. But a core solution to that is actually develop a truly compelling alternative to fossil plastics. And for that, we need to do two things. One is to replace the fossil fuels they use for plastic with something else. And then on the material side, be able to have a material that deliver all the things that we love about plastic. Plastic brought a lot of good things to our world. It actually decreased our carbon footprint, for instance, is lightweight and protects our food and so forth. But then at the same time, it doesn't create persistent pollutant. We're having issues with what's called microplastic, all the way from the production of plastic during use and, of course, once we throw away. And with that in mind and studying a lot, I came with this idea, which is to make a material out of seaweed. It's a farmed crop in the ocean that we actually want a future with more of, because if we had a future where the oceans had lots of marine plants where we farm that, it actually cleans up the ocean. So I love the idea of doing this material with seaweed, which is a feedstock that we need to scale. And then on the material side, there is this group of materials called PHA, which is a natural material, just like cotton or silk, but it has this superpower of mimicking plastic, while being biocompatible with both the planet as well as our own body. So ULUU was born in 2021, once that idea was turned into a business model alongside my co-founder, Michael, which is seated there. So we're quite a young startup, but making good progress around making these PHAs by fermenting seaweed. And we're based in Perth, and you're welcome to come and have a look in our lab and our mini factory that we have there.
My name's Honré. So I am a product manager at Optus. Around 5 years ago, I was probably sitting in the same position as many of you, still at university, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then joined the Optus grad program. So as I said, I'm a product manager and product owner of our conversational chatbot. So I lead the team that looks after and building out our intents and ensuring that our customers can connect to the right experts if need, and also troubleshoot anything that they may be experiencing. So yeah, that's me.
So much homegrown talent. I have a question for Fang and Honré. So with machine learning and AI kind of starting to proliferate society now, how will industries like education and communication change by 2030? What kind of world are we looking at? Fang, I'll start with you.
We actually, a lot of people probably haven't realized that this AI already penetrating your life significantly. I mean, I'm not talking about something like this or ChatGPT. If we're looking at how we manage the energy here, we actually had an award-winning solution for managing the energy for our building's campus, and we actually got awards last week, is utilizing data science, analytics, and to understand the demand, how you use pattern, occupancy of the meeting rooms, etc., and plot what's the best way to manage it. And we have solution delivered, for example, a lot of sensors on the Harbour Bridge. Probably people want to look into the Harbour Bridges and what the hell those ones are. It's actually monitor, like a pulse, a measure people's pulse. It's like a measure the movement of the bridge. Right, and we delivered a lot of solutions into managing our drinking water system, sewer system, and managing the safeguard the quality. Now is doing the carbon, measure the carbon sequestration. A lot of them already happening. So in 2030, I would say that we will see a lot of them embedded in our life and make our life better, like increase the quality of life, and then reduce some of the tension of what we're doing the repetitive work, and then, improve, for example, the life expectancy, the medication health, etc. And we can leave some other conversations to later on. I'm sure there are, everything comes up with a good side, bad side. And all the technology, like even talking about the cars, you have good bits and they have, of course, the bad bits. And is how you maximize the benefit and how you control the risk.
Love that. I think tech often gets branded with this, tech is bad, but alongside with the doom and gloom, there is so much opportunity. And I think that kind of gets blurred sometimes. Honré, do you want to give me
Yeah, sure. I think going off even what you just said, Nikki, I think we need to look at AI as not this scary thing and not taking jobs away from humans, but actually opening up new possibilities and creating new jobs. I think what's really exciting, even at the start of my career, is we're kind of only on the brink of what's beginning. So I think it's impossible to ignore, obviously, the attention that our new software like generative AI and software interfaces like ChatGPT have gotten over the last 6 months. You had people who were maybe a bit scared of AI or didn't really understand it, actually using the platform, wanting to understand it, wanting to see, how they can break it or why it's so bad. But it's actually really good that people are curious and they want to be involved with the technology. So I think I agree with you, Fang. I think it's just going to become more integrated. When we buy our phones, we already have AI software, timer to time how long to boil your eggs, send a text whilst driving. We don't even realize that these technologies are advancing, and they'll just become so normal we won't even realize anymore. And I think from Optus and a telecommunications side, I think the way customers interact with brands will change. I think their expectations will change as well. You know, they will want faster resolutions, they'll want things to be fixed, they'll want sort of, I guess, traditional chatbots to understand them instantly. They don't really want the back and forth. So that's going to be a really exciting space to kind of lean into and understand a bit more, because we really are only on the brink of the beginning of what that will bring.
Amazing. Zena, a little bit of a change of pace, but you're basically a rocket scientist, which is very cool. How will space exploration impact life on Earth in the next kind of decade?
The really interesting thing about space exploration is the opportunities it opened up for the things that we can do on Earth. So a really great example here is navigation systems, so like the GPS that you use. A lot of that is done through satellite-based positioning systems. Space exploration kind of just expands what we can do here and expands the possibilities and the opportunities. What's interesting with space exploration as well is how we're kind of navigating that space. So the panel just before spoke a little bit about space law and how space law, you know, she was quite surprised that space law was a thing. And the reason space law is a thing is because space is becoming a commodity. We're putting satellites up there, we're putting different kinds of technologies and systems up there, and so it's becoming really this commodity that improves our life on Earth and improves the things that we are and are not capable of. So the way that it'll change the future is it won't only open up opportunities for us, it will also change the way in which we view ownership of things. You know, space isn't like land. You can't actually put physical demarcations on it and say, this is my area and this is my space. So being able to navigate that and understand that, I think, will kind of change how we view ownership and how we view those things.
So we won't see Spotify ads on the moon or anything like that?
Oh, God, never say never. I don't know.
Julia, finding new ways to make materials out of things that we already have is kind of your forte. Do you want to give us a bit of insight on the process for doing that?
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with like the supply chain of plastic, but so a petrochemical company that might be owned by ExxonMobil, for instance. What comes out of that petrochemical as a plastic commodity is something that's called a pellet. So it's like little nurdles that can be polypropylene or polyethylene and goes in all the verticals that you might imagine. Like everything is made of plastic nowadays. So our ULUU, what we're trying to do is a pellet that's a drop-in solution to a plastic manufacturer. So the idea of doing that is that we can kind of penetrate different markets relatively quick. So going into your question, in terms of the material world, the dream at ULUU is that, yeah, by 2030, we already have our plants and we are hitting our KPIs around replacing plastic with this material that can do good for the world as we scale. So.
Incredible. Oh, I wonder if I can have seaweed leather or seaweed, like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Zena and Fang, so we talked a little bit about how AI will change the future in terms of technology, communication, that sort of thing. What kind of skills will people need to have to navigate a job market where automation, machine learning is kind of, I guess, not competing, but a big factor in changing the way we work? What kind of skills do you think the next generation will need to navigate this market in 2030?
I think it's matched with the theme today, which is STEM. So STEM is probably number one, most important. However, on the other side, I see the boundary of a discipline become blurry in last 20, 30 years. So, for example, now in the AI development world, we not only have people, these hard code mathematicians and data scientists, also we have people with the social skills, with the design, with perception, psychology, cognitive, all those ones. So it's bring the community, the new technology development actually brings the community together. On the other side is a fundamental discussion. We need to have a baseline, which is a STEM.
The only thing I'll add there is I think tech literacy has become the norm for even for my generation and for the generations that have come after it. Most of us have smartphones, most of us work with computers every day. So I do think that tech literacy has become a standard benchmark, basically. So I agree with you, Fang, that STEM is kind of the foundation, but I do think that most people outside of STEM will have some foundational level of tech literacy. The only skills I think I would add there is potentially understanding how these kind of technologies can support you in your career, regardless of what industry your career sits within. And so I think that just comes with a little bit of maybe self-education. We have so much information that's available now. Open access is really important. So I would just say some kind of like self-education on how different technologies impact you or support you within your career field.
I'm very much of the belief that you can learn to do anything on YouTube.
Oh, I taught myself how to sew through YouTube, so yeah, completely agree.
We'll work our way up the panel, and I'll start with you, Honré. What advice do you have for young women who are wanting to enter STEM at the moment? The kind of advice you would give young women if they don't really know where they fit into this changing world?
Yeah, sure. I love this question. And I'm actually really glad, Fang, you touched on, obviously STEM is the pathway into these careers, but I myself, I had no idea what I wanted to do, even in my 5th year of university. And I came from a marketing and psychology background, and I'm the product manager of our AI chatbot. And I think, to your point, don't be sort of limited by these beliefs that, oh, I only studied this, so there are so many more people that are so much smarter or so much more knowledgeable, because you know, we're going to be working for a long time, unfortunately, and that on-the-job experience is what will actually, you know, develop your skill set. So I encourage you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, throw yourself into the unknown. Obviously, I encourage you to apply for graduate programs. If you're interested in Optus, come talk to me afterwards. But I'm really glad that I actually had the opportunity to be put somewhere where I just had no idea. I didn't really understand what even the NBN was, and now I created an intent that can troubleshoot NBN end-to-end without having to interact with a human. So I think it's just really about, trying anything. Don't limit yourself just because you have these beliefs. And, you know, as I said, you can learn so much. It's not just necessarily about that degree that you have. And so I just encourage everyone to give it a go.
It's great advice. Considering the global challenges we face, cost of living crisis, climate change, superconductors, it's just endless, isn't it? What can be done to ensure that the world we're kind of moving into is more equitable for women? And what can we do as businesses and communities as well in this space? And Zena, I'll start with you.
For me, so I obviously working in STEM and being a woman in STEM, we have these conversations about equity a lot. And one of the things, my boss actually had a conversation with me once and he was like, what can we do? And one of the things I said to him is, for me, equity is just basic kindness. Like the same way you would treat one person, you would extend that to another. And that sounds super basic and super, I guess, given, but it's actually not the case. We do all have these inherent biases, and these biases kind of leak into our decision-making and the way that we conduct ourselves and things like that. So as far as equity is concerned, one of the things I always try and do is have a very open and transparent benchmark for everyone. Equity starts to seep in when you kind of lose the transparency around the different benchmarks that are set for some people and that aren't set for others. So if you have transparency around things like pay, so I work at a university, the pay scales are transparent. If you have transparency around promotions, transparency around opportunities that are available, that really does help to create a more equitable space for people to move within.
Julia, you have a unique insight into this being a female founder. What advice do you have?
Yes, I find this question so hard because it's such a systemic problem, you know, it can tackle on different angles. But if I look at like my own journey, I think events like what we're having here are very important in terms of influencing the new generation. And even as kids, I know the Barbie of today is different from the Barbie when I was a kid in the 80s. But having good role models on like what, you know, a cool girl is about, and showing the diversity of pathways of, what can bring happiness to you is about, I think is very important. And I think then later in the journey of female, another area that I see in my circle is when we are about to become moms and the support that's around us. And I think having more support on where to leave your kid, close to work, perhaps having parental leaves that are the same for male and female. So sometimes it's actually giving more rights to the males in there. So then we get a chance to rest if we want to and get the leave. But if you feel just having that support to leave the baby somewhere close to your work that's affordable, that's available. So I think those 2 points are some worth highlighting here. But, yeah.
Thank you so much. I will go to the audience questions now because there's some great ones coming in. I'll start with you, Fang. Do you have any advice for those who are hesitant about embracing AI in their respective fields? I know with automated, militarized and healthcare issues, there's some things there, but...
I think we as a human so far, we are on the driving seat of driving where the technology goes. Always I use the example of, in order to live our day-to-day life, we use the sewer. It's not a sexy topic to talk with, but does any human being wants to wear their beautiful dresses, suits, and drop down to the manhole, put on the protective gear and take pictures of the sewer inside? No. So we absolutely need to drive the technology towards for human good and for the impact of releasing us from some nasty jobs. So if we have the mindset of design those things and control the outcomes, and the world becomes better. And of course, they always have evil people there and utilizing technology not in the right way. We try to put the boundaries. That's how society works together in terms of even regulations, laws, all those ones. It's for that purpose. So we just need to work together as a society to use the technology and design for purpose, for a good purpose.
Thank you so much. And we have another question here from Alyssa, and this one specifically for you, Julia. How do sustainable plastic alternatives maintain their profitability in a landscape that has well-established roots? Is there a financial benefit?
A financial benefit? Yeah, I think a financial benefit. So it's to who? I always was like, I don't know if I understood very, very well the question, but let's say to the global economy, like if you quantify the impact of plastic to the world in terms of the externalities and what it means to the global economy is enormous. So even now, the ULUU is quite young and we have a premium price associated with that. If we were to internalize all those externalities of plastic, our material is already cheaper than the plastic. So I think on that level, it really benefits everyone, really, to be, turning plastic into a material that has the functionalities we want, while not being made of fossil fuel and putting lots of microplastics inside our bodies and in the environment that we are in. And then for businesses, I think, since I started to study this topic back in 2010, nobody knew about it. And now, we are in a position where the consumer is asking for change in the area. So even now, like we are a bit premium, but on an item level, we think that it's going to boost sales and all of that because people want that. People want to be able to buy a product that is supporting the planet and society. So yeah, we're looking forward to launch our first products, hopefully towards the end of the year, and having some data to back that up as well in terms of what we helping brands do.
Yeah, and one could argue that profits don't matter if the earth is, going up in flames. So priorities. Thank you so much for your expert opinions today. I think we're all in a much more, optimistic stage of our lives when it comes to tech in the future. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.